Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets Memorial Day edition. I'm Zach Ewing, along with Spencer, the Guru Urquhart. We hope you and yours are having a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Of course, on this day and every day, we remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And so, as you relax, we hope you remember that as well. The reason for the holiday, so to speak. Um, so, having said that, Memorial Day weekend also a great sports weekend, Spencer, and lots to talk about. We originally thought about, okay, let's not have a Memorial Day show. We don't need to go on the holiday, but it really was a fantastic sports weekend. Lots to talk about in the sports betting world. Lots to talk about moving forward. And so we will bring you this holiday edition here on Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com. And we are brought to you, of course, by Caesars Sportsbook. And you can get an $1,100 bet insurance if you sign up today through our promo code. Go to nola.com/Caesars, and your first bet, listen, if you miss it, you get another chance. However much you bet, up to $1,100, you will get another chance there. So that's a pretty cool promo. We're also brought to you by the Tulane Doctors. Innovative research, inspired patient care. Visit TulaneDoctors.com. So, Spencer, how has your weekend been?
Oh man, Zach, it was very good, man. As you saying about all the sports going on, had a lot to do, had a lot to keep up with the racing yesterday, and in the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, a really thrilling finish there with Jimmy Butler doing all he could to keep the Heat's hopes alive, but couldn't quite do it. Celtics got it done. I know you were happy about that, Zach, being that you've got a lot riding on them to win it all there. And you had the finals bet, so you had that one cash. And but yeah, then the racing was wild. Like just the Coca-Cola 600 that evening was insane. Had a record number of cautions and wrecks, I'm pretty sure, for that event. Had like over half the field not even finished. Then the Indy 500 earlier in the day was a lot of fun as well. So the Breakers were thrilling. They won in overtime, and in the college baseball field is a lot going on.
Yeah, college baseball field unveiled this morning. We'll get to that. LSU playing over at Southern Miss, the UL Raging Cajuns playing at Texas A&M, and Southeastern playing at Auburn. So we have three South Louisiana teams. Louisiana Tech also in the field. They're playing, I think, over at Texas in Austin.
Yeah.
And so we have four Louisiana teams, three of them in South Louisiana, in the NCAA field. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And we'll talk about that as we go forward. I do want to start with that Game 7, though. And not just because it was a great game and not just because I had a bet to cash, but because I really do think it was the best game of the conference finals round for sure, and one of the best games of the playoffs overall. The Boston Celtics able to beat the Heat 100-96, and it also was a pretty good gambling game, by the way. The Celtics barely hanging on to the game. They hang on to the 3-point spread. And if you were an under better, there was times during that game you thought you were dead in the water. And if you were an over better, the opposite, you thought you were golden. And even there at the end, after both teams had sort of a low scoring fourth quarter, Spencer, you're 100-96. You just need two more points. I mean, it depends on what number you got it at, but the closing line was 197.5. You just need two more points. Miami's got the ball, so you figure either they'll make a shot, or if they miss a shot, the Celtics will get the ball back. Miami will have to foul, and you're going to get a couple points that way. But it didn't work out that way. Miami got a shot, then they got the ball back. They got another shot, they missed them all, and it just ended 100-96.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting for this series, being that it's been so low scoring. These teams have just been so intense on defense. Not a whole lot of scoring there. And yeah, for our daily best bets, I saw Jim that got it at 195.5. So he barely went over.
Oh, wow.
For DBB there. So but yeah, it was fun to watch because it's just a different brand of basketball than the West. The West is generally these shootouts, high scoring games, flashy, Golden State with their shooters and all that. Where with the East, it's like it's hard nosed defense, no nonsense. They really play physical, man. The Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler, the main scorers, but they do have a lot of role players on those teams that play vital roles. And so it's going to be interesting in the finals to see if Boston's tough defense can match Golden State's high-powered offense.
Yeah, and that I mean, you really laid it out there. That's what the story of this finals will be: is the flashiness of the Warriors and the explosiveness of that offense against Boston and this workmanlike ability. I mean, there were times last night, and this is before we leave Game 7 completely. I do want to mention this. It's like one of the arguments last night was, should Jimmy Butler have pulled up for that three? For those who didn't watch the game, Boston had a 98-96 lead. In fact, Boston controlled most of the game. Miami made a run at the end of the first half to get within 6 after they were down by as many as 15, I think, in the first half. Then Boston stretched the lead out again. They're up by 11 with just 3 minutes left, and it was still a 9-point game with 2 minutes left. It was 98-89. But Boston stopped scoring. Miami started getting to the basket. It was almost like Boston was willing to give them 2-pointers in that stretch just so that they wouldn't come back with threes. And it almost backfired because Miami got a couple of easy twos. Then they did hit a three. All of a sudden, it's 98-96. The Heat gets the ball back, 15 seconds left, and Jimmy Butler pulls up for an open shot, a three-pointer that would have given the Heat the lead, and he missed it. Boston got the ball back, got fouled, hit a couple free throws, and goes on to win the game. I had friends who said Jimmy Butler should have gone to the basket. He could have tied the game. Maybe he even gets an and one and gives them the lead that way. He's not a great three-point shooter. What did you think? Did Jimmy make the right decision? Did he have the right to make that decision regardless of whether it was the right decision because of how good he had been? What's your call there?
I mean, he definitely had the right to make the decision. Can't fault him per se for trying to take the lead there, considering how hard it was to get points there at the end. But I mean, the Heat had been rolling there. If I was him, I mean, I think looking back on it, he would have just been like, man, I'm just going to take the 2 and tie things up, because at that point they'd have all the momentum. I think it was been like 10, 11 unanswered points at that point. So yeah, he probably should have just taken the 2. It would have been awesome if he could have hit the 3 for their perspective. But the problem is it's just too risky at that point. I know he was open, but he kind of rushed the shot, it appeared, because he's going and kind of threw it up and just didn't hit, And he had the right to do it though, because he had been the lead dog all night for the Heat. But it just, looking back on, the smart thing to do would have been to drive and get a higher percentage look, because they just needed 2 to tie.
See, I actually disagree with you there, Spencer, and I think Jim would agree with you if he were here, because he's old school and like you play for the tie and all this stuff. And this is where the fallacy comes in the NFL too. Is like, oh, you got to kick that field goal. You're down by 3. You can't go for it on 4th down. You kick the easy field goal and tie it. Well, here's the difference. There is such extreme value in that case for avoiding overtime. I actually think it was the smart play. And I know hindsight's 2020. He didn't make the shot. And so it's easy to look back and say, well, he should have gone to the basket and tried to score a 2. Now, number one, there's no guarantee he makes the 2. Al Horford is a good on-ball defender. Boston, as we saw, makes a very difficult score. And so there's no guarantee he makes the 2. Even if he does, Boston then can hold for the last shot. So Miami needs another stop just to get to overtime. And Boston was favored. I mean, you have to say, if it gets to overtime, Boston is still probably the favorite to win the game in that case. So even if he gets it, you've got to then get a stop on the last possession and then beat them in overtime. So it's close, but I actually think it was a smart play to take that 3. It didn't work out, but I do like it. But kind of to your point and to my point as well. Hello, Hassan. Go ahead and chime in your Memorial Day comments. We'll get them up on the screen as we go. But to your point, Spencer, I mean, like, and to mine too, there were times when the Celtics just made it look like it was impossible to score. I mean, Miami would go these long stretches without a single made shot. And it wasn't like they were missing open shots. They would go down and it would be just tough as nails every single time, to where you'd almost think, why don't you just pull up and shoot a 3? You're not going to get a better shot than that anyway. And so that's what Golden State has to deal with here. And that's why I still like Boston. And yes, I have some futures on them. I'm all about it. But I understand the Golden State side. If Golden State does get hot and goes on a big run and has a 40-point quarter or something, Boston is not equipped to score like that. If Golden State scores 70 points and a half, they're going to win the game. Boston's not equipped to score like that. I just don't know that Golden State is consistently going to be able to do this. But their ability to do it, combined with home court advantage, you see, makes them -160 favorites in this series.
Yep. And I tell you what, another big key for them is I know they've got all the shooters. Everyone talks about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, which I mean, and rightfully so. They're a big reason they do what they do. But the big piece that a lot of people forget about is old Draymond Green. You know, he's not a big scorer, but he's kind of the glue there down low. Their best defender. He's a good smack talker, gets in people's heads. He's a guy he's an X factor. He really is. When the Warriors were missing him at one point during the regular season, their stock was falling. It was like wondering, man, if they would even get a high seed. But then when he returned and stuff, they really turned it up down the stretch and got that home court advantage for the finals. And I just think with him there being able to hold it down on defense, I know he's just one guy, and Boston's better defensively with pretty much all their guys are lockdown defenders. But with Draymond's veteran leadership there, I think that's going to help Golden State at least be respectable on defense. And they just got too many shooters to where it's good. I mean, I just don't see how Boston's going to shut them all down, because it's like if Curry's not hitting, well, you got Pool Party hitting. If he's awful, you got Klay Thompson shooting, and he's getting back to form coming off the injury. So Boston's definitely going to need some more scores to step up. They had Derek White off the bench, the backup point guard. Smart's going to have to chip in more points. Like Al Horford's going to have to do better. I know he's getting up in age, but they're going to need more out of Al Horford if they want to win this thing. They got to have more scores besides Tatum and Brown, in my opinion, if they want to win it.
I believe they said this on the broadcast last night on ESPN. But the Boston Celtics, all 5 starters got at least one Defensive Player of the Year vote. Which is amazing. I mean, so if you think about it, like, yeah, they 1 through 5, they will D you up, and obviously Golden State is the ultimate test. And like you said, if Curry's not hitting, you got Klay Thompson, you have Jordan Poole, you can go to Andrew Wiggins, who had a big series.
Yeah, Wiggins. Yeah.
They do have a lot of weapons, but I look at the other end of the floor, and Boston. Look, they didn't score a ton against Miami because Miami's a very good defensive team. They didn't score as much against Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's a better defensive team than Golden State. My question is, okay, Draymond Green, let's put him on Jason Tatum. Let's put him on Jaylen Brown. Wherever you want to put him, wherever you think he matches up the best. Poole and Curry have to guard someone. They're not great defenders. Klay Thompson used to be a very good defender. I still think he's okay. He's lost a step since his Achilles injury. He's going to have to guard someone. So that's where I look at this and say I'm more confident in Boston uglying this series up than I am in Golden State just shooting the lights out every night. But I understand. Jim said, I think Golden State wins. This is our group chat this morning, and Jim will be here on Thursday as we preview more of this series, but on At the Book. But Jim said, I think Golden State wins unless they play poorly. And I responded, that's kind of my point, is Boston makes you play poorly. Like, yes, if Golden State is able to play their game, they're going to win the series. But can they do that? They're not going to get a lot of open shots. Now, maybe they get out in transition. Maybe that's how they do it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying I like the matchup better for Boston. So, like I said, we'll talk more about it at the book on Thursday. But here's a look at your Game 1 opening line. The Warriors 3.5-point favorites in Game 1 at home, and over-under of 211.5. Devin Jackson, who will also be back on Thursday, he mentioned – he likes the under in this game. And I kind of like where that's headed too, because you did say, I mean, Golden State's they're not an atrocious defensive team. I mean, they do have Draymond Green running the ship, and Boston would prefer to play a slower pace. So this thing, I could easily see a 105-100 type game here.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just it being at Golden State, the Warriors tend to really turn it up at home. But yeah, being Game 1, it's kind of getting familiar with the how trying to exploit Boston's weaknesses on defense. Not that they have a whole lot, but yeah, they could definitely be on the lower side here. It's just, yeah, I don't know what to think. I'd probably stay away from it because we don't know how the pace is going to be. I could see the overhitting if Golden State gets hot, or it could go way under if Boston locks them down. So it's going to be tough to say. I kind of like the 3.5 though for Golden State in this one, because I think they'll be able to. I think it'll be close most of the way, but I think they'll be able to get going late and be able to pull away at some point, because they're just so good in their building, man. There's not many teams. I know a lot of teams play better at home in the NBA, but to me, Golden State, that's the best home court advantage in the league.
Yeah, and they're undefeated at home in the playoffs. So that is one thing. Now Boston Boston is 7-2 on the road in the playoffs. Amazing record on the road. They lost 1 game to Miami, 1 game to Milwaukee on the road. They won 3 times on the road in Miami, twice in Milwaukee, and also won both road games in Brooklyn. So 7-2 on the road. I don't know that being on the road scares them, but of course, as you said, the Warriors are undefeated on the home, so something's got to give. If you are watching, drop us a comment. Tell us who you think will win and in how many games. Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors, NBA Finals. They begin Thursday. So drop us what you think. We'll show your predictions on screen here. If you are betting this series, there's a couple ways to go. We showed you the series price, okay? So you can bet the Warriors straight up minus 160, bet 16 to win 10, 160 to win 100, whatever it is. Celtics are the underdogs, bet 100 to win 140, bet 10 to win 14. You can also bet game by game, of course, as we said, Warriors minus 3.5 in game 1. Here's another interesting thing. You can bet, will a team win game 1 and the series? And if you like Golden State, instead of paying this minus 160 series price, you can bet at Caesars Sportsbook, NOLA.com/Caesars, for plus 105 that Golden State will win game 1 and the series. And don't you think, Spencer, if you're going to, if Golden State's going to win this series, you gotta like them to win game 1 too, right?
Yeah, I think there's some value to be had there for sure. Because it's just, I think it definitely, if they need to start off strong and get game 1 under their belt at home. You don't want to drop the first one at home, and then it could be, we might drop another, and then you could end up letting the whole series slip away. So yeah, there's definitely value to be had there at that plus 105, I'd say.
And I mean, so again, if you like Golden State to win the series, you get them at plus 105. If they lost game 1, they might be in a little bit of trouble anyway, because now you're talking about they've given up home court, which honestly hasn't meant a lot to Boston yet anyway, but it's you still can't say that it's meaningless, right? So that's one part of that. And then the other way, and Jim Derry brought this up this morning, and I think this is pretty sharp too. If you like Golden State, instead of paying the minus 160 series price, why not put some money on Steph Curry to win the MVP? And then whatever you put, let's say you put $100 on Steph Curry to win the MVP, put 1/10 of that, so $10 on Klay Thompson, put $10 on Draymond Green, put $10 on Andrew Wiggins, put $10 on Jordan Poole. So instead of betting 160 to win 100, as you would have to do on the series price, you've put 100 on Curry, 10 on each of those other 4. And now if Curry wins, you've won 100 by just betting 140. And if one of the other 4 wins, you're obviously going to cash out a lot more. So that's another way that you could do this, where you're risking a little bit less and you're going to win the same amount back if Curry wins it, which is what would be expected if Golden State's champion, or if one of the other ones win it. So that's another way you could do it. Now, the only downside to that is if Curry wins it, you're losing that $40 that you bet on the other 4, where you would actually have gotten that $40 back from a Curry bet. So that's another way, but lots of things to do here, Spence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, honestly, I'd probably I know Curry's still the big dog and is definitely the favorite to win the MVP, assuming Golden State wins the series. But I'd assume take a shot on those other 4. I'd maybe just split it up. Maybe if you bet 100, put 25 on the other 4 and just hope one of them could get it done, since Curry's odds are so much lower, as far as, on the numbers. All the others are such long shots, but to me, they're not that long shots because they're all valuable contributors. I could see any of those guys winning, and I really could, especially if Curry has a couple off games where it kind of hurts his series stat line. I mean, there's just way more value to be had with the other 4.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Eva likes the Warriors too. She says gold-blooded, so she's taking Golden State. Look, you're right, Spencer. I do think that I got the wrong slide up there. I do think there's some value, and on the flip side, I wouldn't bet Jason Tatum at plus 180. I would just go ahead and bet the Celtics at plus 140 if you think they're going to win, because Jaylen Brown at 10 to 1, even Marcus Smart at 30 to 1. Those guys are not incapable of winning the MVP. Now, I will say that if it's close, if it's sort of like the Western Conference Finals and frankly the Eastern Conference Finals were, if you're not sure who to give it to, Curry and Tatum are going to get it by just name recognition. But this is not a situation where it's Luka Doncic for the Mavericks, or even like Devin Booker
Giannis
for the Suns. I guess Chris Paul's there, but yeah, Giannis for the Bucks. That's a better example where if that team wins it, there's a 95% chance that Luka is going to win the MVP or that Giannis is going to win the MVP. So I don't dislike that way of thinking at all with these teams. They're so balanced. Maybe you bet a few others. I don't know that I would bet Draymond. He's a very valuable player for him. He's just not going to have the stats. You know what I mean? He's not gonna
Right.
he's gonna average single digit scoring unless he's averaging double digit rebounds and assists. I just can't see a scenario in which he wins the MVP. So I think you could skip him.
Yeah, even Clay, like he's like 15-1. I mean, with him not being quite what he wants, but there's definitely more value to be had with Wiggins and Poole both at 35-1. I mean, those are both, even if you don't feel super confident, it'd be worth throwing a few bucks on each, just because if they would, one of them would happen to get really hot and win it. You just, even with just a few bucks, you could win a pretty penny there.
So yeah, there's lots of different ways to bet the NBA Finals. Clearly, we can we can talk more about this on Thursday at the book. But right now, you're watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up, go to nola.com/Caesars. That will automatically put in our promo code for you, and you can get started. There's all sorts of different ways to bet it. In fact, you can look at the Caesars odds online and decide if you want to sign up. But you can bet series betting, you can bet individual games, bet MVP. They've got odds for next year's NBA champion up. And then also, if you like a team to win this series easily, you could bet Golden State to sweep the series. You could bet Boston to win in 6 or fewer games. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways you can bet it. So if you have a strong feeling, it's a good time to get in before Thursday.
Yeah. Speaking of the 2023 odds, Pels are a great value right now. I know it's early to be worried
60-1.
about 2023, but yeah. And the Lakers, terrible. Do not touch the Lakers. It's so ridiculous how Vegas favors them.
We told you that last year. Don't touch no. Now they may go out and trade Russell Westbrook and get somebody. I don't know. Maybe they'll be better next year. But yeah, you can't be speculating just based on that. You're watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook and Tulane Doctors. Zach Ewing along with Spencer the Guru here on this Memorial Day. Hope you are relaxing with family. Want to switch gears a little bit. The other thing today, the Ncaa Baseball field was released, and LSU is in. They did not get to host. They'll be heading 2.5 hours east to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Take I-10 to Slidell, take I-59 up to Hattiesburg. I'm sure plenty of LSU fans will be doing that. Southern Miss faces Army. Southern Miss is the regional host. They're the national 11 seed. That gets things going on Friday. Then it's LSU against Ncaa State in the night game Friday. The winners play Saturday, the losers play, and then they work their way through to the regional final, which is on Sunday. And then if the team that is undefeated loses that Sunday game, they play again Monday evening. But all in all, Spencer, a very reasonable regional here for LSU to get through, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think they get through. To be honest, I know Southern Miss is a nice team, but I mean they didn't even win their conference tournament, so they're definitely beatable. I mean, my Raging Cajuns beat them earlier in the year, and I mean the Cajuns had to do well. They made the tournament and stuff, but compared to LSU, I don't see Southern Miss doing it. LSU, I know they struggled in the SEC tournament there against Kentucky and Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is by far the number one team. The Kentucky loss was ugly, I'll admit, but I have a feeling they're probably going to lose one game that you're kind of like, but since it's double elimination, I think they'll be able to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Southern Miss is very good, and you knew you were going to have to face at least one other good team, and Southern Miss is absolutely capable of beating LSU in this regional. However, assuming you're not the regional host, which we knew last night LSU would not be a regional host, this is about as good as you could have asked for. I mean, yes, Southern Miss is good, but they're not unbeatable. And the other two teams are Army and Ncaa State. Like, no power conference teams, no traditional baseball powers there. That is about as cushy of a regional as you could get for a non-regional host. And so LSU a very good chance to get through. If they do, they would face the winner of the Coral Gables regional. That's Miami, Florida. They're the number 6 seed. Canisius, Arizona, and Ole Miss. And so if Miami doesn't win that regional and LSU does come out of Hattiesburg, LSU could actually host a super regional. It happened a couple of years ago where they didn't host a regional. They were up in Corvallis, or actually I think they were up in Gonzaga, won that regional, and then got to host the Super Regional against Florida State because there was an upset in the other bracket. So stay tuned. If you're rooting for LSU, you root against Miami. Maybe we even get an Ole Miss LSU Super Regional at Alec Box Stadium. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah,
the other
and you
state
best
teams,
believe LSU would. They best believe LSU would be ready for redemption if that would happen, because that's what happened with Ole Miss getting swept in Alex Box. I don't think they would let that happen again.
I don't think so, and it's a great point. Ole Miss was the surprise team to even get in the field, by the way. That was what they were talking about in the selection show. Why Ole Miss over, I think it was NC State that they thought should have gotten in. And so if Ole Miss were to make it, and LSU, and we're a long way away from that, but man, the reason Ole Miss is in this field is because of that sweep in Baton Rouge about a month ago. So, boy, that would be a juicy storyline, Spencer.
No doubt. Yeah, I actually hope that happens. That'd be a lot of fun. We love SEC baseball, so yeah, I get to see them in the supers.
And if not, listen, if it's LSU Miami, they got to go to Miami. But we all know that those teams have history too. Warren Power, right? You like everybody knows about the history of that one. So other Louisiana teams, I said Warren Power. It's not Warren Power. It was Warren Morris. Warren Power was a football player. Warren Morris hit the walk-off home run for LSU in that College World Series. I knew I was saying something wrong. Warren Morris. As for other Louisiana teams, the Raging Cajuns, as you mentioned, Spencer, get through. They win the Sun Belt tournament, get the automatic bid. They're headed over to College Station. So not that far, maybe 3.5-hour drive from Lafayette over to College Station. They will open up against TCU, and Texas A&M is the host of that regional. They're the national number 5 seed, and they're facing Oral Roberts. So UL Lafayette, look, they're hot at the right time.
Yeah, the Raging Cajuns rolling, man. I tell you what, I think they could maybe get out of this. I know A&M is a strong team, SEC team, not going to be easy, but the Cajuns can swing it, man. They've got a heck of a lineup, very, very strong lineup, can hang with the best of them. There's just the pitching had been kind of struggling throughout the year, but they really stepped up in that conference tournament, really leaned on the starters. It threw a lot of pitches. Hopefully they'll be rested and ready to go for the regional. Because they're gonna need to pitch a little better, but I think they're capable of it. Because with that offense, they could definitely make some noise. I say if it was 2 teams that got out of it, I would feel better. But it's just the one, so it's gonna be tough to get A&M out. But I'm definitely not scared of TCU or Oral Roberts. So we'll see how it goes. But Cajuns definitely looking up.
Spencer the Guru ain't scared of you, TCU. So we'll find out what happens on Friday in that one. And then, of course, Texas A&M will be the big dog there. The Southeastern Lions are in the tournament. They got to the final series against McNeese State, lost the first game in extra innings, came back and beat them twice. So congratulations to Southeastern. They will head to Auburn. And you want to talk about some blue bloods in this regional for college baseball. Southeastern, Auburn is the national seed. They're the host, number 14 seed. And then the other game is UCLA against Florida State. So that, you talk about some big college baseball names. However, none of those teams had an outrageously good season this year. Southeastern, clearly the underdog there, but hey, they're playing well. You never know what happens. You lace them up and see what happens in Auburn. And then the 4th Louisiana team, as we mentioned earlier, Louisiana Tech, is in Austin, where national number 9 seed Texas is the host, along with Air Force and Dallas Baptist. And so congrats to all those Louisiana teams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, should be a lot of fun there. And then Tulane, I know they were looking good for a while, but they're now on the search for a new coach. Hopefully the Green Wave can get a new coach that can get them back to a regional next year.
We'll take a look at some College World Series odds, and the only Louisiana team you'll see on this list is LSU there at the bottom at 35-1. I hope you didn't bet them early in the year when they were like 18-1 and there was all this excitement over the new coach. Just wait on some of these things. Just wait, and you can get better odds later. LSU 35-1. Not terrible value. They probably don't have the pitching to make could they get to Omaha? Yeah, I think they could. Could they win the whole thing? Probably don't have the pitching. I don't know if I'd bet it at 35-1, but clearly better odds than you would have gotten earlier. Tennessee still clearly far and away the favorite, plus 135. Then Oregon State, who's the national number 3 seed, is at plus 1,000. Followed there Stanford, the national number 2 seed, and I think Virginia Tech is kind of a surprise team, the national number 4 seed. So anything stick out to you here, Spence?
Let's see. Yeah, nothing too much.
There's a lot there, I know.
Yeah, I would say Miami at plus 2,000 seems interesting because cause they would match up against the LSU regional for their super regional, and that LSU regional doesn't look too strong. So if Miami can get out of theirs, then I definitely think they will probably go to the College World Series. I don't want to rain on the LSU parade, but that's a good team there, and I think they definitely could make it far there. And it's baseball. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, Texas is a blue blood. That's always interesting. A&M at 2,500 is interesting. But yeah, there's really nothing here that I'm just like, wow, I gotta get in on that. Everything's just kind of up in the air. Maybe just take a shot of just do like a $5 lottery ticket on the SEC teams, the different ones there, since they're all usually pretty good. And then I was maybe like we were saying with the finals, like with the finals MVP thing, put more on the favorite, like put more on Tennessee, and then just make some small bets on some of the long shots.
Man, you said don't bet anything, and then you're saying bet everything.
I was just trying,
put a little bit
trying to come up with something because for a while
man.
I was just it's because there's nothing I felt that strongly about, but when you really start looking at it, somebody's got to win, so that's why I was saying you gotta. For those that want to bet, I wanted to help them out just to try to come up with a little something.
I'll put it this way. If you give me Tennessee or the field, I'll take the field. And they don't have that bet up. Maybe they will later in the week. I don't know. But you figure the field's probably minus 155 or something. Tennessee's plus 135. I would take the field. I just think in any tournament like this where a bad day or two and you're out. And Tennessee, by the way, they'll almost certainly get out of their regional. But at that point, you start facing good teams. Like the regional matched up with Tennessee is Georgia Southern, but there's also Notre Dame and Texas Tech in that regional. Like somebody good is going to come into Knoxville that at least has a chance of knocking them off. And even if Tennessee gets past that, you've got to face 7 other really good teams in Omaha. So, yeah, I kind of like the 2 Pac-12 teams at the top there. Oregon State 10-1, Stanford 12-1. These are teams that have played for national championships recently. They have the pedigree. They're having great seasons. And then I agree with you on Texas A&M, 25-1. That team can really, really hit. And so I'd keep an eye on them. Interesting too, Southern Miss there at the bottom. USM, same odds as LSU coming out of the same regional. So figure one of those 2 teams will probably come out of Hattiesburg and play in the super regionals. So that's the story in college baseball. Women's College World Series in softball is this weekend as well. We'll maybe throw some odds up for that on Thursday's show, where Oklahoma is the big favorite. But in the meantime, Spencer, I do want to look back at the weekend here on Bayou Bets and talk some auto racing. I know that's right up your alley. Let's start with the Indy 500, where Marcus Ericsson, the Swede, wins it at 14-1. And one thing you notice here is like most of the favorites were nowhere near the top. Pato O'Ward, I think, was the number 3 favorite. He finished second. And then if you look down at number 9, Alex Palou, I think, was the second favorite. But Scott Dixon was the favorite. He wasn't even in the top 10. And a lot of these guys were longer shots. It was a good race to bet on long shots, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wish I'd have been higher on Ericsson there, being that he was a Ganassi car. I just felt the Ganassis were juiced a little too much, but that was more Palou and Dixon. Ericsson slipped through the cracks there, and you had 14-1, ended up being a bargain, and sure enough, got the win. Dixon dominated. It should have been Dixon's race, but he had a pit road issue that caused him to fall back, and it occurred on his final pit stop to where there was just no way he was going to be able to make it up. I think he went from like the lead to 21st, so it was a shame because he had it won. I figured he was a shoe-in, but he could have gotten past though, because it was like Ericsson and Pato O'Ward. They were hard charging there at the end. It's just the finish was a little disappointing because I thought that Pato might be able to get it from Ericsson, but Ericsson, it was 2 laps to go at a caution and a 2-lap shootout, and then Ericsson was able to just pull away there and get it done. But it was a fun race overall. Cool to see old Tony Kanaan, what might be his last Indy 500, get a podium finish there.
Yeah, you just never quite know what you're going to get in these races. And that's why, like a guy like Scott Dixon, okay, he was the best car. what was he like? Plus 450, I think, to
Yeah,
win.
yeah.
And even then, you're only talking about a 20% implied probability there that he wins, because it's hard to do. Even if you are the best car, something silly could happen. You could get bounced out, and that's what happens. And speaking of guys getting bounced out, man, the Coke 600 was a mess.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I've never seen a Coke 600 even close to this. Normally, the Coke 600 is just a real kind of just like war of attrition, just like who can survive. But I mean, it was like that here, except normally it's like who can survive, like not having a blown engine or a blown tire. Where this was just guys just like going for it and wrecking just like nonstop. I mean, I've never seen that many wrecks in this race before. This was unprecedented. And Denny Hamlin, who won, he wasn't even close with 2 to go. He was like in 5th or 6th, and in the top 4 all wrecked. And then him and Kyle Busch snuck through, which I was happy about because they were the guys that I like for the Fast 5 picks, because I figured for veterans, they didn't know how to get it done. But sure enough, they did. I mean, they survived all the craziness and were there at the end, and Hamlin was able to hold Kyle off and get it done. Just unprecedented. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I mean, you need some luck to win these things. There's no doubt about it. You sometimes you get caught in a wreck and there's nothing you can do. But at the same time, experience helps. Sometimes you see the wreck coming just a split second before a younger guy would, and that split second is all you need to stay out of the way or to stay clear of it. And sometimes it seems like luck, but maybe it's not truly luck. So anything you learned this weekend that tells you about the rest of the season in either IndyCar or in NASCAR?
For the season, I would say IndyCar. I think I'm pretty sure a Ganassi car is going to win the championship. I mean, the way they flex their muscles there. I know the road and street courses are different, but the Penske cars, who were looking like the top ones, they just had such a bad showing at Indy. I mean, they were nowhere to be found. So to me, that tells me that they might be a little better on the road and street courses, but with the more ovals coming up, they have a few more ovals left. I feel like the Ganassi cars are going to wipe the floor with them there. It's a Dixon, Palou, and Ericsson. Probably Palou and Ericsson would be the 2 championship favorites, since Dixon didn't get the finish he deserved at Indy. And then for NASCAR, it's just, I don't know, man. NASCAR is just so wide open right now. Good luck trying to pick the champion there. I know Kyle Larson's still the favorite, but I don't know. I would wait for that for sure. I would wait until probably like around when football's starting in September to get just to me, you're just kind of just throwing your money away trying to pick a NASCAR champion right now.
A couple of other things, as you mentioned early on, the New Orleans Breakers beat the Michigan Panthers in the first ever USFL overtime game on Saturday, and so they moved to 5-2. New Orleans faces Birmingham on Saturday, this coming Saturday at 2:00. The Birmingham Stallions, and that's one of their 2 losses. Birmingham 4-point favorite this time around. They're in first place there in the South Division, and so interesting to see. But a big day for a big weekend for the Breakers. They get the win. Tampa Bay loses. Breakers pretty clearly in playoff position. Even if they were to lose to Birmingham, if they take care of business the rest of the way, I think they will be in the 4-team playoff field at the end of the month for the USFL. Yeah, what do you think of that playoff format, by the way? It's kind of a little like a penalty kick shootout feel to it, where I take a 2-pointer, you take a 2-pointer, we have 3 rounds, and whoever gets more gets the win.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at it too much for okay, like what is it exactly? It's only 3 teams that get in, right?
And trust me, this is not something I knew until I saw the Breakers game. But if you go to overtime, each team gets 3 chances.
Oh, overtime
at a 2-point conversion, and it's set up like penalty kicks in soccer, where okay, so I think Michigan went first, New Orleans stopped them, then New Orleans went, they scored. Then Michigan went, New Orleans stopped them again, and then New Orleans went, they scored again, and they didn't even do the 3rd round, because at that point the Breakers are up 2-0 in sort of the shootout, and they actually give them 2 points for each, and so the final score was 31-27 in overtime. And that's how they did it.
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I wish I'd have seen that. Yeah, I was so locked in with the races. I kind of the Breakers over Saturday. Yeah, I should have tuned into that. Yeah, because that's interesting. I'll have to go back and watch the replay of that overtime, because that's a unique thing, and that's good that the USFL's experimenting with things like that. It's just kind of like, why not?
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, try
look,
something new. Make
the league
it
is a little
worth
bit
watching.
silly.
Yeah, make it
If we're
worthwhile.
being honest, it's a little bit silly because the talent level clearly not as much as the NFL. These teams have city names like the New Orleans Breakers and the Michigan Panthers and the New Jersey Generals. They're all playing in Birmingham in front of empty stadiums. Like, they're not really a hometown team. They never play at home. Maybe that'll change next year. But the whole thing is a little bit silly. But I will say, I love the sort of the innovation. You can do a 3-point conversion from the 10-yard line. And so a 9-point game is a one possession game. This overtime system, the fact that they have drones on the field, that they're doing first down markers by electronics, by GPS, that might be my favorite one. You don't have to mess with the chains and the index cards and all that crap. You're just finding out like that. That's where the value is in this thing.
Yep, yeah, and the NFL, you best believe the NFL's taking notes on this, and they'll scrap what doesn't work, and what works, they're gonna steal it because the NFL, they don't want any threat to their reign on American eyeballs.
No, and there's no threat. There's no threat, but I will say I like the innovation, and I hope the NFL does take some of these ideas to the rules committee and say, why don't we do this? So probably not this coming season, but maybe next year we see some of that. Well, speaking of value, I hate to admit, I want to end the show. Jim Derry and I's monster French Open parlay has died a sad death. Amanda Anisimova lost yesterday morning, and our 900-1 parlay went kaput. And then Yannick Sinner, on top of it today, retired in the middle of the match. Couldn't go anymore. Thanks, Yannick. But we're into the quarterfinals, so we'll show some odds for you. Iga Swiatek, now a minus 300 favorite on the women's side. She got pushed to 3 sets today, though. So she's not – I wouldn't say she's dominant, but she has won 32 matches in a row. So it's just interesting. A lot of the other top seeds have fallen by the wayside, including Amanda Anisimova. And so that's one reason why Swiatek is such a big favorite here at minus 300. Leylah Fernandez, by the way, at 10-1. She's the one who knocked out Anisimova. Several Americans here, Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula, Sloane Stephens, all have chances. I want to say all 3 of those are on the other half of the draw from Swiatek. So they may all have a chance at getting to the final. And then on the men's side, Spencer, we got Novak Djokovic against Rafael Nadal tomorrow morning in the quarterfinals. You got those Titans meeting up.
Man, you'd have thought that would have been the finals match. Yeah, Djokovic and Nadal. I mean, I'm no tennis enthusiast, but I mean, I know those guys. I know they're the 2 big dogs there, so I might have to tune into that.
Yeah, and the reason being, Nadal hasn't played a lot of matches this year, and so his ranking is down, and I think he's only like the number 6 seed. And just the way it worked out, he faces Djokovic in the quarterfinals. And so for that particular match, by the way, I want to look up the odds just for that match tomorrow morning. And it is, where are we? Checking out the Caesar Sportsbook here. It is Djokovic minus 250 and Nadal plus 190. So I don't know. I kind of like Nadal plus 375 to win the tournament, because if he beats Djokovic, is there any stopping him? Carlos Alcaraz did beat him at the Madrid Open, the Spanish teenager. And so Alcaraz is a sort of a problem there too. But Nadal as an underdog at Roland Garros, man, that's tempting.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the best value. I mean, Djokovic is, because I mean, you got to bet if you want Djokovic or Nadal, bet them now, because whoever wins out of them in this match they're going to be in the negatives at that point. They're going to be minus 150 or something even lower than that. So yeah, bet them now if you're going to bet them.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I misspoke on the women's side. Jessica Pegula, the American, actually faces Swiatek next. But the other 2 Americans, Coco Gauff and Sloane Stephens, they play each other on the opposite side. So one of those 2 will be in the semifinals. Coco Gauff, a minus 200 favorite in that match. If you would like to join the action, Caesars Sportsbook is the place to go. NOLA.com/Caesars puts in the promo code automatically for you. Your first bet insured up to $1,100. You can bet NBA Finals, French Open, golf, college baseball, whatever you want to do. It's all up there on Caesar Sportsbook. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars. New customers, first bet insured up to $1,100. If you lose, you get all that money back in bonus cash, and you can bet it all again. So you basically get 2 cracks at the apple, two bites at the apple. You don't crack an apple.
I never cracked an apple.
that and calling Warren Morris Warren Power. Those are my Memorial Day mistakes. So, again, hey, thanks for watching. And of course, on today and all days, the ultimate thank you to those who sacrificed their lives for our country on Memorial Day and for those families who had to make that sacrifice as well. Spencer, on this holiday weekend, your final thoughts?
All righty, it was a fun weekend. Really enjoyed it, but this week we got a lot going on, especially at the the NBA Finals starting up on Thursday. Looking forward to that, and then OTAs. Y'all have been keeping up with OTAs. Been cool to see Chris Olave and the other Saints rookies doing their thing. Olave's right now repping the 12. Kind of surprising, considering the Saints legend Marcus Colston rep that number. They said it's not official though. He hadn't officially picked his number because he was 2 at Ohio State, but that's Jameis Winston's number. So be interesting to see what he does if he's going to keep that 12. Oh, he better live up to that because Marcus Colston, man, he was quite the guy. It's kind of funny. They're opposites in a way. Like Colston was the 7th round diamond in the rough, or Olave's going to have all the eyeballs on him as the 1st round rookie that they traded up for. But we'll see. And then in those dynasty, I told you about the dynasty league. I mean, Olave actually went in the 6th round in the startup dynasty draft, a 12-man super flex league, and Michael Thomas slipped all the way to I believe the 11th round.
All right. I mean, in a dynasty league, I believe it. And we'll be talking plenty of fantasy football over the summer as we get a little bit closer to the NFL season. We will be back with you at 4:00 on Thursday for At the Book, the night of the NBA Finals opener. And so my final thought is that, yes, I almost had a heart attack last night. Yes, I wished at one point that I had hedged Miami plus 10.5. I didn't do it. I cashed my Boston Eastern Conference bet, and now I'm all in on the Celtics in the finals, baby. Boston minus 1.5 games for plus 210. We're going to find out what Jim Derry has to say about that on Thursday at 4 p.m. at the Book. See you on these same social media channels. See you on bet.nola.com. Thank you to Caesar Sportsbook and Tulane Doctors. That's Spencer the Guru Urquhart. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching Bayou Bets. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. And listen, it's going to be good.